Hello everyone, myself Sajna Janardhanan, Faculty Biology, Silver Hills Public School, Calicut. Today I am going to discuss with you about the topic morphology of flowering plants. It is of class 11th chapter. What is morphology? Morphology is the study of features of flowering plants. So, the flowering plants must have certain features and a detailed study of those features are coming under the branch of science which is known as morphology. The external features and internal features are together coming under morphology, and let us first discuss about the external features of a plant. For that, let us know about the parts of a plant. You must have learnt the parts of a plant from lower classes onwards. So, what are the important parts of a plant? The important parts of a plant are root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit and seed. Each part we have to study or learn in detail. For that, let us start with the root. The first part what we have to learn today is about the root. Root. Root is a part which is seen normally under the ground, and for a plant the parts of a plant are divided into two. One, it is the part which is seen under the soil, part which is seen above the soil, aerial. So, this way when it is divided, one system we call the part which is under the soil as root system and the part which is above the soil as shoot system. Now, let us begin with the root system, the root. So, the roots are the descending part of the plant. What do you mean by descending part of the plant? The descending part of the plant means it is the part which is growing in a descending manner. Ascending and descending manner means it is the part which is growing above the ground, it is having an ascending growth. The part which is growing downwards will be having a descending growth. So, because of that it is known as the descending part of the plant. Now, as it is growing towards the ground, it is always known as positively geotropic. It is showing affinity towards the water as well as it moves towards the ground. It is generally known as positively geotropic as well as positively hydrotropic. It never prefers light as it is not interested in photosynthesis. It is not possible for the roots to undergo photosynthesis. Because of that, they are generally known as negatively phototrophic. So, that is the third point, a characteristic feature for the root. Now, the last, from where the root is developing. When a seed germinates, the seed contains inside the growing part that is known as embryo. When it is developing and when it germinates, the embryo, while in its development, one part which grows towards or it grows upwards, the other part shows a growth towards downwards. The part which is growing upward is generally known as shoot system, which the starting originating point we call it as plumule, whereas the part which is developing, which is growing downwards from the embryo region, that region we generally call it as radicle. So, the roots which are normally developing from the radicle. So, these are the important characteristic features of the root, that is, it is the descending part of the plant as it is growing downwards. Next, It is positively geotropic as well as hydrotropic. Develops from the radicle. Next, the structure of the root. The root structure, there are three structures for the root. One is meristematic region, next is region for cell elongation, and the third is region of cell maturation. So, these are the three important parts present in a root during its development, which we can say as root structure. Now, region of meristematic activity or meristematic region. What is meristematic region? The meristematic region means it is the growing part of the root. So, any root during its growth, the tip portion which is the growing part generally is known as the meristematic region, which is normally protected by a root cap, because the meristematic region, the tip portion, as it is the growing region, the cells are very tender, which has to be protected from the soil and all other microorganisms. So, it is always protected by the root cap. So, that is the region, the first part of the region where the growth generally takes place. The mitotic divisions are taking place there, the cells are doubling in that region. So, the cellular development, that is cell division taking place region, is generally known as the meristematic region. Next, region of cell elongation. Once the new cells are formed by the meristematic activity. So, the meristem, that region, the cell division is taking place. Once the cell division takes place, the next is those cells, division after division, they started elongating or increasing the size rapidly. Thus, when the cell is elongating, that the next region we call it as zone of elongation, that is the region of cell elongation. Just above the meristematic region is the cell elongation, the zone of elongating region. Now, this is the region which is helping for increasing the length of the root rapidly. So, always when a root is growing, the tip portion, which is known as the meristematic region, undergoes cell division. So, that region undergoes cell division, new cells are formed. These new cells further extends its size by elongating. So, when the elongation takes place, it normally increases the length of the root rapidly. Next is after the third region, that is after meristematic region, then elongation. The third region is the region where during the growth process differentiation of the cell takes place and they get matured. So, older cells, when it is dividing, younger cells are present in the region of elongation. The older cells are pushing backward. These cells differentiate or matures. They, once it matures, from those region or from that region, the root hairs develops. So, the root hairs are normally developing just above the root of cell elongation, that is the region where the region of maturation happens. So, the main function for the region of maturation is differentiation of the cell takes place as well as the root hair development is taking place. Once the root hair is developing, what is the purpose of root hair? It should have certain purposes, because in a root, the root hairs are the part which are helping to increase the surface area for absorption. The main function of the root is absorption of water, minerals, etc. from the soil. So, whenever that is taking place, the surrounding areas also have to be taken in consideration. So, to take in consideration for the surrounding area, the roots develop root hairs which may extend its size or extend its area, thus the increase the surface area, and this way it is helping for absorption. So, these are the three regions generally present in the root which we consider as the root structure. I am repeating it once again. Meristematic region, the growing part of the root which is protected by the root cap. Next is region of cell elongation. The elongation of the cells are taking place in that region which helps the root to increase the length. And the last, that is the region of cell maturation. That is, the older cells are getting matured, getting differentiated. From that region only the root hair develops, and that is helping to increase the surface area of absorption. So that is all about the root structure. Now let us move on to the different types of roots. We must have seen many types of the roots. At least now it's time to think about the different types of roots. Now you have to come with me, you have to think about different types of roots. There are two types of roots generally seen. One is taproot, the other one is fibrous root. What is taproot? What is fibrous root? We just have to study. For that, I'll explain about the taproot system, which is having one main root that grows deeper, and simultaneously from that main root many lateral branches are forming, which are the sub branches. So a primary root, which is the main root, along with many branched structures, when it is forming, this entire system of root we call it as taproot system. So taproot system are generally known as the true root, which is developing from the radicle. The radicle onwards it is developing, it further extends its growth. Once it is extending its growth, it is known as the primary root. Then from that primary root many sub branches are developing, sub branch roots are developing. This primary root and the sub branch root together we call it as the taproot system. They are generally known as the true roots, and these true roots are generally seen, that is the taproot is generally seen for the dicot plants. There are two types of plants, monocot plants and dicot plants, based on the number of cotyledons present in the seed. Dicot plants are having 2 cotyledons in the seeds, whereas monocot plants are having 1 cotyledon, single cotyledon in the seeds. So another one characteristic feature for dicot and monocot are all dicot plants will have a taproot system, which is having a primary root and lot of lateral branched root system. So this is the taproot system. Fibrous root system. In the case of fibrous root system, there is no primary root, whereas in the taproot a primary root and all its branches together formed into a taproot system. Here instead of that there is no main root, all roots are developing together, and thus it is forming into a bunch which are of same size. This is the type of roots generally present in monocots. Discuss once again about the fibrous roots and taproots. Fibrous roots, it is a bunch of root development where no primary root is present, and all the roots when they are forming into a bunch may be almost same in size, and this is the type of root generally present for the monocots. And taproots, which is normally developing from the radicle, and that main root, the primary root is growing and sub branches are developing from that primary root. So this way a one main root which is known as the primary root and the branches together constitute the taproot system. So thus there are two types of roots, that is one is taproot and the other one is fibrous roots. Next, we have already told that is there are only two types of roots. Yeah, that is mainly two types. This is an extension of the fibrous roots. That is, in some cases, special cases, the roots are developing from parts other than the radicle. So, these are also the development is exactly like fibrous, that is a bunch of roots are developing, they all are almost equal in size. But problem, they are not developing from the radicle. So, we cannot consider or we cannot classify them into those two groups. So, these are special roots which are developing from parts other than the radicle. So, any time when the root is developing from the parts other than the radicle, it is known as adventitious root. Adventitious roots are almost or similar to fibrous roots, but we have divided or we have taken them out from the fibrous root as it is not developing from the radicle. They are mostly developing either from the base of the stem or from the nodes or from the leaves. There are many examples for this, such as, hope you all must have seen sugarcane. How is sugarcane root? Sugarcane, from the nodal region, many times the roots are developing from the stem. So, my point is correct, that is base of the stem. The sugarcane have no roots. Money plant, which is quite common, everyone must be having at least one money plant in your house. It is a creeper. It is having creeping roots, that is for climbing, attaching. It develops its roots from the nodes on the stem. The weak branches, that is the weak stem, normally have the roots which are developing from the nodes. So, two examples. Now, there is a leaf which is known as bryophyllum. In the bryophyllum leaf, normally it produces or propagate by the formation of small buds attached to the leaf margin. So, in that plant, that is bryophyllum, the margin of the leaf develops certain roots, and from there a bud is formed and that get detached for vegetative propagation. So, from the leaf also sometimes the root development is taking place. So, all such roots, when it is taking place either from the base of the stem or from the nodes or from the leaves, when that is taking place, it is known as adventitious root. So, this is a special type of root system which is developing from the base of the stem, nodes or leaves, not from the radicle. Next, they have one more special feature which is known as they never grow deep into the soil. These roots generally will grow maximum up to the subsoil level. They are not going deep into the soil. They are having the normal root for the functions of the root. These are normally for supporting. So, adventitious roots generally never grow deep into the soil. They may grow maximum to the subsoil level. So, these are the features of the adventitious root system. So, adventitious root system, they develop from other parts of the plant than the radicle. So, normally in almost all plants, the root means it is developing from the radicle. But this type of root is developing either from the base of the stem or from the nodes or from the leaves. And these roots never grow deep into the soil. All such roots, I have given you certain examples, just think of that examples like sugarcane, money plant, etc. Then these plants are having the adventitious roots in them. So, 3 types of roots we have completed. Now, when it comes to the functions, what are the functions of the roots? Simple functions you have to say, that is quite common functions, which is we all know, fixation and anchorage of the plant. That is, a root system is having a proper root system. What is present is, if that is present, that helps for the fixation and anchorage of the plant. The roots are helping for the plant to fix properly in the soil. Next, what is the main function of the root is? When it is fixed, next it is growing deeper and deeper. Then what is happening? It is absorbing water and minerals from the soil. So, the second function of the root, it is absorption of water and minerals. That is also there. The third, in some cases roots are helping for the storage of the food. Many examples are there like carrot, beetroot, tapioca, sweet potato. All these sweet potato, it is present in the aerial side, but still are examples for the storage of the food in the roots. So, the general functions for the roots are fixation and anchorage of the plant, absorption of water and minerals, storage of the food. These are the 3 general functions. Other than that also, sometimes roots undergo certain functions by undergoing certain modifications on their root, which we call them as the root modification. So, root modification is normally done for conducting or performing certain functions in certain plants. So, basically the functions such as one is storage of food, or it is normally known as storage root, and the roots are modified in such cases for the storage of the food. Then the next one, pneumatophores, means respiratory roots, that is roots are modified for respiration purpose. Next is prop root, which are the supporting roots which supports the plant. Stilt roots, again for support, another type of root. So, roots undergo modifications, and those roots are categorized into 4, such as storage roots for the storage purpose, pneumatophores for the respiration purpose, prop roots support only, as well as stilt roots are again for the support. We have to study in detail of all the 4 types of roots which are formed by the modification. Now, what are storage roots? The storage, the term itself, storage of food. For storing the food in them, some of the roots undergo certain modifications, and this way the roots are helping for storage of the food. So, whenever in a plant, when the leaves prepare food, the prepared food is distributed to all parts of the plant. It consumes on its own. The rest, like when we cook at home, sometimes excess food when it comes, normally what we do, we store it or we safely keep it in the fridge, we can use it in the next day. The same way for the plant also it thinks, when any time any excess food is formed, the excess food it normally store in different parts of the plant. In some cases, the excess food storage is happening on the roots. How this is happening? So, one good example, very quite common example, that is carrot. Everybody must have seen, everyone loves to eat carrot, which is very good in vitamins and other things. So, this carrot is, the root is developing into a cone shape. So, when the root is growing, this develops into a cone shape, and inside this cone shaped root, it stores the excess food what is prepared by that plant, which we call it as carrot, which is having the root which is known as conical root. A conical formation is taking place, it is bulging, it is forming, and such a root is known as, the rest of the plant parts are developing from them. You can see the stem part on the picture itself. The root portion is forming into a conical structure, cone shaped. So, that is a modification for storage. Next, in some other plants, instead of cone, it is forming spindle shape for the storage of the food, which when it is spindle shape, it is known as fusiform. Fusiform shape, the spindle shape, is generally seen for radish. You can see both the end, it will be tapering, a spindle shape. So, spindle shape, the root is modifying into a spindle shape, and it is storing the food in it. So, the storage of food, if it is taking place in a spindle shaped root, such root modification is known as fusiform. The third, which again for the storage of the food, the root undergo a special type of modification, that is, it is taking the shape of a pitcher, Pitcher, pitcher. It is a particular shape of a vessel. So, the pitcher shape, it is slightly the wider part which comes or end up into or taper into or narrow down, that is the narrowing down structure, we call it as the pitcher shape. So, this pitcher shape is seen for beetroot, turnip, etc. So, turnip is exactly the picture shape could be seen as well as beetroot also. If a picture shape formation is taking place or that modification is happening, it is known as napiform. So, napiform root modification is generally seen in beetroot, turnip, etc. The last one, which are tuberous roots, which is the root what is developing normally store the food and they are forming into tubers, that is a swollen portion of the root is taking place in any shape, maybe sometimes elongated, sometimes round, there is no particular shape in them. So, a shapeless one which are generally known as tuberous or root tubers. Sweet potato is an example for that, it is again a root modification. So, the storage roots, it is root modification. The roots are modified in different shape, cone shape, spindle shape, pitcher shape, tubers, which are generally known as conical in carrot, fusiform in radish, napiform in beetroot, turnip, etc. and tuberous root tubers in sweet potato. Now next, so first storage roots are over. Next is about the respiration roots. What are respiration roots? The plants which are growing in marshy area, they are known as halophytes. Halophytes are the plants which lack oxygen as the marshy area never have oxygen in the soil. So, they are devoid of oxygen. So, the roots want to breathe. So, breathing is not possible in the normally a root breathe from the soil. They normally absorb the oxygen from the soil. Exchange of gases are taking place under the soil itself. Whereas here, as there is no oxygen present in the marshy land, these roots are not able to breathe. But breathing is must for all living parts. So, the roots what they do is they somehow modify and some of the roots are coming upwards or they grow upwards, that is towards the atmosphere. They look like pointers. So, pointed roots are coming out and these pointed roots grow upwards, they are able to absorb oxygen from the atmosphere. So, thus these roots are having small pores on it, these pointers, through that they absorb the oxygen, thus they breathe, they undergo respiration. So, such pointed roots which are a peculiar feature for the marshy plants. Only in marshy areas such plants are seen, nowhere else. So, marshy plants generally if you see the plant roots normally grow upwards. So, the roots that are growing upwards for the respiration purpose which are able to absorb oxygen from the atmosphere are known as respiration roots, which commonly known as pneumatophore. The third one, the modification of the root, another one is for supporting, which is known as prop root. Prop root means these are the roots that arise from the branches. Good example, banyan tree. Every temple, in front of every temple there will be a banyan tree and the children love to hang on the branches of those trees. Hanging roots, generally we say it as hanging roots. Every child must have at least once played or once hold that hanging branches. What is the purpose of these hanging roots? These hanging roots are the roots that are arising from the branches of the huge trees. Only for the huge trees such roots are present. What is the purpose of this? The purpose of those roots are, it is for supporting the branches. Very huge tree, the branches won't be able to hold in the air by the trunk. The trunk alone can't support the entire branch system when it starts flowering, when it starts fruiting, etc. So, the branches will develop certain roots which are growing downward, which reaches up to the soil. All such roots are doing the function as a pillar, which is supporting as a pillar. So, normally the roots are also known as hanging root or pillar root, which commonly known as prop root. Prop roots are quite common and very familiar one which in banyan tree, and everyone must have seen it. So, banyan tree is the example for prop root that must be having the pillar like roots developing, which is growing, which is reaching the touching the soil and it further grow again. So, these are the supporting roots. One more is there which is also doing the function for support only, but this is not for the huge trees. These are for the plants which are having weak stem. Weak stem means it is having the stem, or it is normally for the shrubs. The shrub plants, for the survival in the field and all, it cannot survive in the field if it does not have a support. So, in such cases, from the lower nodes of the plant, it develops certain roots. So, in weak stem plants or weak plants, generally from their lower nodes, lot of root development takes place, which are again acting as a supporting root. So, this is also supporting root, but for the weak plants. So, such roots which are seen for the weaker plants or the roots which are developing from the lower nodes are known as stilt root. So, these are certain root modifications we have seen other than the normal functions of the root. So, roots are modified for performing certain functions such as storage, respiration, support, etc., which have been classified by storage roots, pneumatophores, prop roots, stilt roots. So, storage roots, conical shape, fusiform shape, napiform shape, tuberous, which are examples for these roots are carrot for the cone shape, radish for the fusiform shape, that is the spindle shape, beetroot for the napiform, and tuberous for the the sweet potato for the tuberous root. Respiration roots, it is present only in the marshy areas, which the roots are not able to get oxygen, roots are not able to respire in the marshy land. So, they grow upwards and they breathe. In such specialized roots are known as respiration roots. Then for support, as in banyan tree, like huge trees, the supporting roots are known as prop roots or hanging root or pillar root. And when it comes for the small plants, when the root is developing from the lower nodes for supporting, it is known as stilt root. Both stilt and prop roots are doing the same function. Thus, I have come to an end of the topic root system. Let me conclude the topic time being. I will come with the next topic, that is about the stem, in the next session. Till the time, bye from me. Thank you.